actually yesterday because I shaved yesterday, and the
Oh,
promo
I
picture.
think we're live.
Yeah, and the
Good.
promo picture has me with a beard. So it's like, wait, did something happen? No, no,
Good
it's me.
afternoon.
Good
Our
afternoon.
guest speaker is letting us know that he may look different than his picture in our promo. But I'd like to welcome everybody to our Youth in Care Week. My name is Catherine Derry. I am one of the coordinators at the NB Adoption Support Network. And this week we will be sharing a few videos of youth voices. We can get the best information, experience, and learning from hearing from the first person voices of people who've had this experience. So I am very happy that this afternoon we have Justin Pothier. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
People have
No.
been pronouncing it for years, so it's
You
been
can correct me and let us know.
it's fine.
Okay. Well, I'm really happy to have Justin with us. So we're just gonna jump right in. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, Justin?
Um, well, I've had a long journey to get to where I am. So I started youth in care, and then after that, I mean, we can get more into that later. But after that, I went out into the world, and that didn't work out so much for me. So I stayed in a special care home for longer than I intended, about 6 years, and just getting more or less back on track now. I work with Youth Impact, where I work with at-risk youth, youth who have been our are in the system currently, and my role in Youth Impact is to help them develop skills and build strengths and really build into a better future than their situation.
Justin, I was just going to say, you said you spent 6 years in a special care home and it was
Yeah.
longer than you anticipated. I just want to say life's not a race, right? Like it's right when you get there, right?
Yeah, but um, with the special care home, it it was a place that I needed to be to kind of heal and put myself back together from a lot of stuff. But at the
That makes
same
sense.
time, I didn't belong there
Mhm.
because, I'm articulate. I'm not one of the people that needed to be there, but it was a place that I needed to be.
That's pretty
Yeah.
good understanding of your own experience. And I think it's amazing that you're helping work with youth now. So, could you tell us a little bit how you first came into care?
I was pretty young. Um, so my mom was undiagnosed ADHD. My father wasn't in the picture. Um, I recently, when you're when you're that young, and especially as a teenager and all that, you find out certain things. You you build up all sorts of things in your head. So recently, like about a year ago, got in touch with my father, and he confirmed what I always kind of suspected. He took off because he was scared. He was 17 and or 16 and not really ready to be a father. So he ran. And so it was just me and my mom. And we went from place to place. There was one time we were in a greenhouse. Actually, she told me this story, and you could see it when it rained because the rain would come down, sometimes inside the wall, sometimes out. So, and she tried, she really did. Um, but eventually I ended up with Linda and Arnold, who they took me in, and I kind of got lucky in that sense because a lot of people in my situation get bounced around. I really didn't, and I did at the same time. So mom would come down for visits sometimes, and I would stay with my aunt, or I would stay at Linda and Arnold's because they were friends of a sort, or I would stay sometimes with Jacqueline, who was a friend of the family. So I never really got bounced around in system, but I still feel like I did because I was in different places. So
So did you
after,
did you know them beforehand then, Linda and Arnold?
uh, not that I remember,
Okay.
no, but a little bit, I think.
Okay.
So then I got, and again, I don't remember the full thing. I've only been told certain things. Um, but I started living with them, and I lived with them for 17 years, give or take. So yeah,
Wow. That's a
long time.
significant amount of time.
Yeah,
It was good that you had them.
it is. Um, I learned a lot, but at the same time, I I also learned I had family in the area.
Ah.
So that was always a question for me of, well, if I have family in the area, why am I here? But
Mm-hmm. That's understandable.
over time, I've just kind of come to accept that people make choices for whatever reason they do.
Mhm.
And it's not up to me to hold that against them.
So, based on your journey, what are your thoughts about adoption, fostering, kinship? You don't have to answer all, just whichever ones you feel you have something to say, something about, you know?
Uh, I always have a lot to say. Whether I
That's
should say
good.
it, then it's another thing.
Yes.
Um, on fostering adoption, somebody told me this once, long time ago, youth in care as well, and she's talked to other parents and all of this. A lot of people, and I think that's slowly changing now with more youth voices, but a lot of people, when they adopt, they think, oh, I'll adopt this kid and make him, he'll be like part of the family and this and that. But you're basically picking up where somebody left off
Mhm.
by their choice or not. Somebody left off with this youth, and now they're taken from their family. They're put in effectively a stranger's home. So they're going to push boundaries. They're going to act it. They're going to do all sorts of things to test you to see if you're going to stick around. And the moment you turn your back on them, sometimes they'll just shut you out. And it'll be a long process before that trust gets built again. So that's one thing I'd say that really needs to be understood out of the gate. Fostering, yeah, there's a lot of kids now. I was reading a statistic about one third of the homeless population, so about like 33, are youth. Yep. And then a smaller fraction of that are youth under the age of 16. So when you look at that, it's a lot of youth that need people to care for them, need people to help them. and they're not getting it. And even though Youth Impact does what it does, and other programs like it, like Portage and the one up in St. John, I forget, I think Crossroads is its name.
I can't recall, but yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a lot of programs, but there's only so much capacity. So you have, and that's just like a Moncton statistic. So, say in a bigger place, you've got, say it's 20. Okay, that doesn't sound like a lot. But if you've got an area of 200,000 people, I'm not that great at math, but that's a lot of people. So you've got maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5, maybe 10 homes that can house 5 each. That's 50. That's 50 out of about 2,000. Not a lot.
No.
So either more people willing to foster or other programs. And quite honestly, the family dynamic is one of the more important things. And that kind of feeds into kinship too,
Yes.
because when you're trying to repair the damage caused by trauma, there are two things that are going to help the most. That is someone who's always going to be there for you, your one safe person, and community connections. No, and I'm not just talking about like trauma centers and all of that, but things in the community and people who are going to be there for you. And you can't have that without stability.
No, no, you're right. Absolutely. Um, how prepared and supported did you feel as a young person entering the world, and what was helpful and what was not?
So I think we kind of um,
Yes.
covered that with me going into the special care home. But
Yes.
I, people are who they are, and people are taught a certain way. And
Mhm.
some people are more open minded, and some people are not about certain things.
Right.
So when you learn skills from one group of people that are useful, but are not always current, that can affect you. But if you don't have anybody else to teach you or think about these things, then you're going to go out there thinking this is the way the world is. And then on top of having to budget, having to manage your medication, having to get a schedule, having to all of that, they don't teach a lot of that in high school either, like budgeting your time. So when you have to
Right.
catch up and it already feels like you're behind, and then school on top of that, if you're going to college, or work on top of that,
Mhm.
it can break you. It really can. How supported did I feel? I had a worker who would check in with me every week, and they'd give me like $100 for groceries, and they talk like, hey, do you need any more support and this and that and others. I didn't know what to ask for. I didn't know what supports were there. I didn't know. So it kind of felt like, well, you're 19. We're gonna give you this person, check in on you every week, make sure you're still breathing. Other than that, figure it out.
That's a lot when you're 19
Yeah, it really is.
and you're bringing trauma.
With no one to help me through it. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, you're trying to make friends, you're trying to keep on top of everything, and you're trying to, and when you're used to people reminding you, or, your medications being with your breakfast, or, hey, in a spot where you take them every day and whatnot, what happens if you forget to fill the prescription? What happens if you miss that? There's all those things you don't think about before you're aged at, like, you're
Right.
encouraged to leave. And then when you have to figure that out on your own, it's a high margin for failure.
Mhm.
So I didn't really feel supported at all, to revert
Mhm.
back to the
No.
question.
Yeah.
And one thing that did work though, that did help a little bit, was somebody to check in, somebody. But what would have been better is somebody to come in, and because we have our social workers and all of that, but they and they're well trained and they do their job, but someone coming in to transition almost, because normally that's the parent's role, but most people, so like outside of the care system, when you leave home, you're expected to do all these things and whatnot, but you've already had a little bit of this and that and some time to figure it out. And when you're in care, it's a little bit different because you're more withdrawn. It's harder to make connections sometimes. It's harder
Mhm.
to invite people into your life because, especially when you don't have the same last name as the people who are caring for you, because then that invites all sorts of questions. And then there's the stigma. Oh, you were
Mhm.
adopted. Instant judgment. So people do that, say 3 or 4 times, you eventually stop inviting people over.
Mhm.
So you don't really build those skills. So what would be helpful is somebody coming in and being like, okay, so today we're going to do budgeting,
Mhm.
and or build that into like the school system where you emphasize transitional skills. Budgeting.
Mhm.
Okay, anybody take medication? All right, well, you're going to need to like organizational skills, stuff like that. No, just a thought.
Absolutely. Those are great thoughts. It's important. Like, I don't think anybody thinks of all the steps because people being raised in their biological family have those supports, with them. They're not just, hey, here you go, figure it out, right?
Here's $100. Good luck.
And it's really important that people understand like what experiences people people who've aged out have been through. So we have some before I go to my last question, we have some comments.
Oh,
Suzanne says, Justin, you are so articulate and make such important points so clearly. She also says the stats on homelessness and youth who have been in care need to change.
hmm.
Uh, Kim says wonderful points being made. And Suzanne says again, your points, Justin, about trust and are so bang on. So so we're getting some great comments and feedback. People are learning from you definitely. Me too. And my last question is tell us in your opinion why youth voices those who've been in the system, why are these so important?
One thing I enjoy since I started You Speak Out, a lot of my peers from that are going into counseling, they're going into youth related fields. And I don't know what Zoe's doing now, but she ran the youth. She was the coordinator for the Partners for Youth program. If you stick somebody who grew up white picket fence, 2 cats and a dog, brother, sister, everything provided for them, never had to think about these things in that position, I don't think you'd have the same success. You need people who have been there. And that's not to say that only a cancer survivor using that can console cancer survivors, or only a police officer can console police officers. Not saying that at all. But if the person doesn't actually dive in and want to understand cancer survivors, police officers, first responders, military personnel, youth in care, they're not going to be effective at providing the services that they need. It really helps bridge that gap, though, and build that trust if you've been through that. Because you're going to think about, okay, well, what's the problem with putting your stuff in a garbage bag? Like, I don't get it. Why? Me, me putting myself in a garbage stuff in garbage bags, I get the necessity, but I still hate it. Because to me, that says all of this stuff you have is trash. It signifies to me that none of the stuff is really mine. It's not, and even if I've got it with my own money or anything like that, it's just that little reminder that you didn't really deserve this. It's garbage. And I think that only someone who's been through that, because when you move from place to place to place, the quickest way to do it is in a garbage bag. The same thing you put your trash in. And eventually you start associating your stuff with you.
Mhm.
It's someone who's never had to do that, never even been in that situation, isn't going to think of that.
No, 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 you're right. It's very important. And those connections that you all have are very important. And like you said, so many working in jobs now with youth, that's amazing because not only are they going to be able to connect with youth, but I feel like all your voices together are those are going to be the ones that are going to make change. So,
I hope so. Part of why
yeah.
I do these things too, you know?
Oh, and we're lucky that you do. So, do you have any closing thoughts, any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Um, well, I'd like to thank the Adoption and Permanency Awareness Month. I'm glad that this is a thing. And then
Me
you know,
too.
Brunswick Adoption Foundation for hosting these talks, for providing a space with youth in care voices and doing all that you do. Um, and for people who are looking to get into the field, even if you don't have a background in the care system, be be open-minded and just really listen.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Justin. I learned a lot. You really express yourself in such a wonderful way, and you articulate the importance of youth voices on this journey. So I feel very lucky that we had you here today. I want to thank everyone that joined us. If you're watching it on replay, please feel free to leave comments. And we will be back again with another youth voice tonight at 6:30, Tara Silas Pelche. So please join us for that one too. Thank you, Justin, so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.